Good evening, everyone. A very warm and special welcome to our session. Thank you so much for joining. We have 40 minutes, so we're going to run a very tight program. I'm really happy that you took the time out of your day to join me to learn a bit more about stress and anxiety and the way it impacts on us. So before we get into the session, I'd just like to share with you some housekeeping just to support us as we go through this session. So please keep your mic muted unless you are invited to share. Feel free to write questions and comments in the chat. Do take notes for future reference. There will be a couple of reflective activities in this session, and the note taken will be useful there for you. In placing your messages in the chat, please be respectful and kind to others. And I encourage you to listen and engage with an open mind that is willing to learn. Then the session would make sense, right? So as we go through our session today, you can leave with a better understanding about stress and anxiety, be able to identify the signs, become aware of the effects, and learn ways to overcome stress and anxiety. I'd like to share just a bit about myself. So I'm Steve Sankar. I'm a certified transformational life coach. My practice's name is Professional Coach Steve. And I'm an expert in mindset change and empowerment. Clients who I support, they experience incredible results. And some of you may be in this session as well. It's really amazing how we have the ability to change and to transform as human beings. The only limits and limitations that we experience are the ones we set for ourselves. And as you go through the session today with me, take the information and see how you can use it going forward. I encourage you to put what you learn into practice and begin transforming your life. So when we think about stress and anxiety, we hear these terms all the time. We're quite familiar with them. And, basically stress it's really how we react or how we respond to challenging circumstances. These circumstances are what they are. However, each of us, depending on our life experience, on our state of mind at the time, on our abilities, on what we're aware of in terms of tools and strategies, that plays a big part in determining how we experience situations. So, for example, we can all be in a place physically together and something happens, and some of us could be traumatized by it, and others could be somewhat, and others could be pretty okay. What determines that? It's really our mindset. It's our mindset. It's our emotional, our mental resilience. And, you know, our knowledge in terms of what we've learned, our experiences. So stress is subjective in terms of how we experience challenges. Anxiety, on the other hand, is when we worry about things. And, you know, heightened anxiety can be that even after those things, those circumstances have passed, we can still continue to worry. There are times when nothing is challenging us, there is nothing happening, but we can still be anxious and have scenes replaying in our mind, replaying, just cycling. And both of these, stress and anxiety, can have terrible consequences on our mental and physical well-being. Stress is a common trigger for anxiety. And chronic stress, or high levels of stress, increases the risk of developing anxiety disorders. The American Psychological Association says that 83% of people that they surveyed were experiencing some form of stress. And, you know, the pandemic that we've all survived increased the prevalence of stress. It's almost a pandemic, stress and anxiety. Because, you know, the world is pretty challenging right now to live in. And things happen every day, and it can overwhelm us. It's natural for this to happen. It is natural. And what happens is that while we experience this in our mind in terms of the stress, what we tell ourselves in our mind, the thoughts, there's a chemical reaction that takes place. So the main stress hormone is cortisol. And with the cortisol being present in our brain and in our body, it has, over a period of time, negative effects on our brain function, our memory, and our mental and physical health. You know, through my own experience, I know people, I've supported clients who, through stress and anxiety, it manifested in such horrible ways in their life. You know, in terms of body, there is burning in the body, pains, in terms of mental, can't sleep, and the anxiety is uncontrollable. And even with medications, some of these people couldn't get help. It just didn't help. You know, so each of us will have a different experience with stress and anxiety. Some of the physical signs would be headaches, muscle tension, stomach pains, general body aches. We can be experiencing nausea, diarrhea, constipation, have difficulty falling asleep, feeling tired all throughout the day, a loss of appetite, or even overeating. Again, it really depends on each person. increased heart rate, chest pain, high blood pressure, dizziness, shaking. It weakens the immune system, so you find yourself having flu-like symptoms or even getting the flu very often. You could develop difficulty focusing, making decisions, remembering things, feeling overwhelmed often, can't stop thinking, making poor decisions, developing a pessimistic and negative perspective on life and yourself, feeling anxious, having racing thoughts, constantly being in a state of worry and fear, easily becoming agitated and impatient, often feeling like you're on the edge, feeling fearful, worrying, feeling sad, feeling hopeless, having a loss of interest in life, feeling like you can't cope with what's happening in your life, sleeping too much, isolating yourself from others, friends, family, procrastinating, avoiding tasks, even turning to substances to help you cope, alcohol, cigarettes, even drugs, fidgeting, nail biting, all of those are signs. And, all of us, we live with some level of stress. And I'm sure as you listen to those signs, you might identify some of them in yourself. You know how many times I've sat down next to people and they just keep shaking their bodies, shaking, 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 almost vibrating the chair I'm sitting on. And that's their normal state of being. And that gives an indication of what's happening in here. The mind just keeps going, going, going. I invite you now to take a moment and write down any current stressful situations or moments in your life. So let's take 3 minutes for that. So think deeply of stressful situations, moments in your life. It's on the screen if you need to remember the question. And if you're having any difficulty identifying any stressful moments, reflect on those signs that I just shared and see when last you experienced any of them. Maybe that can get you thinking. Okay, I hope you found some situations and you were able to write them down. So when we think of the effects of stress, some of those signs and those symptoms certainly are the effects of stress. It can also lead to heart disease, stroke, high blood pressure, the habit of clenching the jaws, tension headaches, grinding your teeth. It can lead to depression, difficulty with concentration and remembering things. You feel like you're in a constant state of brain fog. It impacts on the immune system and it slows down the healing process. So it not only makes you more susceptible to developing illnesses, but it slows down the healing process for whatever health challenge you might be having. And stress can also worsen autoimmune diseases and certain types of cancer. So it can slow down the healing and even make it worse. Stress can ruin our lives. All aspects of our life, in your health, your physical and mental health, on relationships. It can impact on your finances because when we are overcome by stress, we may not be able to perform at work, whether we are an employee somewhere or whether we have our own business, and get anywhere for professional development. Many people think that I've spoken with, they just see stress as a natural part of life, as if it's a given. We're supposed to be stressed. No, no. Having stressors, so stressors are the things that creates the stress in those challenging situations and circumstances. Facing stressors is a normal part of life, but being stressed is not. It's not. There's a reason why there are some people who are totally stressed and some aren't. There are some people who are so mellow, they don't worry about things. Thankfully, I am one of those people, because with training and with practice, I mean, I practice meditation. I've been doing that for over 10 years, and that certainly supports me in a big way. But also other skills, tools, strategies. So my feathers aren't usually ruffled, so to speak, quite easily, you know? I can manage myself, manage my thoughts, manage my feelings. So the difference between being able to do that and not being able to do that is really us employing practices, bringing good habits, good practices into our life that supports us. And, you know, there are many ways to reduce stress and anxiety. We just have to do them. We just have to do them. So, regular exercise that supports us with reducing stress and anxiety, eating a healthy diet, having adequate sleep. You know, sleep seems to have become one of those negotiable things in the world today. Um, there was a time when sleep, I remember when I was younger, when adequate sleep was a necessity and it was a priority. Everyone would go to bed at a particular time. But now there's no bedtime. You stay up as long as you could and you get up as early as you need to. And all of these, you know, the exercise and the sleep, they have a chemical um, effect in our brain because a lot happens here. It's almost like a lab when you think of it. The hormones, the chemicals, everything that then impacts on our well-being. And we are the one, we are really the ones that determine how that happens in a big part, in a big part. Learning practices like meditation. So I encourage anyone who wants to learn meditation to go to the Raj Yoga centers, the Brahma Kumaris. They teach free Raj Yoga courses, and you can learn meditation. It really can change your life. You can practice yoga, hatha yoga, deep breathing exercises. You know, it helps to calm the nervous system and reduce stress. You can seek emotional support from friends and family. And you want to seek emotional support from friends and family who will support you, right? Not making the situation worse, who will support you. You can develop coping strategies. You can develop a new mindset, you know, building mental and emotional resilience and using tools and strategies to overcome the challenges that you face on a day-to-day basis and be able to adapt to and bounce back from difficult situations. You know, this area, the mindset and the emotional and mental resilience, strategies and tools, that's my area of expertise. This is what I support people just like you with, building up the mind and teaching you ways how to go through life and not be stressed out, and how to have a better chance at achieving success with your goals. At this point, I'd like to invite you to follow me with an exercise. It's a simple breathing exercise, and you can do it with your eyes open or your eyes closed. All it involves is counting and breathing, counting and breathing. So you count your breaths and you just breathe. So I invite you to, if you're sitting, place your feet flat on the ground, put your palms on your lap, sit upright. For the purpose of the exercise, I invite you to close your eyes if you feel comfortable. Focus on your breathing. Observe the air being inhaled through your nostrils. Observe how the chest rises and falls. And for the purpose of the exercise, I ask that you exhale through your mouth. So breathing in through the nose, exhaling through the mouth. As you inhale gently, yet deeply, filling up the lungs and the diaphragm. So you should feel your stomach rise. Exhale. Exhale gently and fully through the mouth, completely deflating the lungs and the diaphragm. Concentrate your attention fully on breathing. In through the nose and out through the mouth. And I'm going to count till 10. And as I count, I'd like you to breathe as I guide you. All right? So focus on the counting and on the breathing. 1, breathe in through the nose, gently and deeply. Hold it for a moment. 2, exhale through the mouth, gently and fully. Inhale through the nose. Exhale through the mouth. That's 5. Inhale through the nose. Hold it. 6, exhale through the mouth. It. 8, exhale through the mouth. 9, inhale through the nose. 8, 10, exhale through the mouth. Resume breathing in your natural way. Observe what's happening in the mind. Observe your body and see how you feel. You should be feeling a little more relaxed. So now I'm going to invite you to do this for 1 minute. So set a timer. And when I say start, I'd like you to count in your mind and focus on your breath as you breathe in and out. Go from 1 till 10. Take little pauses in between, but do what's comfortable for you, right? And when you get to 10, then you can start back at 1, but we're only doing it for 1 minute. So let's start. Okay, so resume your natural breathing. Again, observe the mind, what's happening there. With the body. You know, this is a simple breathing exercise that we can practice at any time, anywhere, anywhere. Even if you're driving, all you're doing is breathing because we breathe all the time, but you're focusing on your breath and you're focusing on how you breathe, deeply and gently. So it's quite a practical exercise. If you do this exercise for 10 minutes each day for 6 weeks, it has proven to rewire your brain to create new neural pathways for positivity and emotional resilience. So maybe you can challenge yourself beginning today. Do 10 minutes. Just set a timer on your phone or anything that you have that you can use as a timer and practice this focused breathing and see how it can change your life, make things better. I invite you to join me for a reflective activity. I invite you to think of any stressful time where you can use your breath to reduce stress and stay in control of your thoughts and feelings. Think of a time when you can do that using your breath. As you think of that time, take a moment and in your mind, visualize yourself breathing in that moment, focusing on your breath. Just take a moment and go through it in your mind as if you're in the experience and you're using your breath. You're just focusing on your breathing to help you stay centered. We're running close to time. We're on schedule. So if you have any questions, I encourage you to place them in the chat and I can pick up on them. Any thoughts you'd like to share in the chat? Yes. So yes, Christopher. Yes. In the traffic, you just breathe. Or at work, you just breathe because we're breathing all the time anyway. And Denise, yes. Instead of arguing back, just focus on the breath. And no one has to know what you're doing. No one. No one has to know. You know, I encourage you to, develop some of these practices to support you with reducing stress and anxiety. Thanks, Corey, for that question. So there are times when a little stress can be a motivator, a little stress. So some of those opportunities would be when we're about to write an exam, or maybe you're about to go on stage to do something, whether you're a performer, you're an entertainer, you're going to do something, deliver a talk. A little stress is okay, a little, but not for too long a period of time, because then it can work against us. Thank you so much for that question. So everyone, thank you for your time. we're at the end of our session. I know I would have shared a lot of information with you. You will receive a copy of the recording, the session recording by email. And I am here. I invite any of you, all of you, to reach out to me if you believe that you need some support with managing stress and anxiety, or you believe you want to begin focusing on building up your mindset, building mental and emotional resilience, learning tools and strategies to create the life that you truly want to live. So thank you for your time, and I look forward to seeing you at the next class. Remember, it's the first Tuesday of each month. So have a great one and see you all soon, okay? Thank you. Bye-bye.